game on. It's game on. We are big on sports. Big on sports.
Definitely, game on. We are certainly big on sports. Welcome to the show. It's the 15th day of the month of July, the year 2020. Interestingly, it also happens to be midweek as well. Welcome to the show, and for the next 1 hour, the biggest story is taking center stage in the world of sports. Tell you what, there was an 8-goal thriller last night in the Italian Serie A as Atlanta did climb into second place down in Italy. They had a 6-2 win against Brescia. Meanwhile, across the English Premier League as well, for Chelsea, managing to edge Norwich City by 1-0. There's a crunch time later this evening. Arsenal will be up against Liverpool. 4 games across the English Premier League, and then tennis is almost back. Johanna Konta, the British #1, should be in action. That should be early next month. And if you're a fan of football, there's plenty of team news we shall be taking you through. And then the president of the country, that is His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has come out and confirmed that for all the medalists that have brought Uganda medals over the years, they are actually said to be rewarded. That is something we shall actually be discussing here on the show. First things first, though, we are joined by a lady. Her name is Irene Tigaiza, and she pretty much comes in from a foundation, that is the Zanya African Foundation, and she'll be telling us a thing or two about how they are incorporating sport, especially in terms of their activities, to improve, to develop, and certainly empower some of the communities. That being said, the show starts right now. My name is Brian Osimwe. As always, I'll be joined by Hope Mugisha as well, and join the conversation. Facebook, Urban Television, Twitter, the handle is at Urban TV Uganda. Say, welcome. The show starts right now. Irene, most welcome to Game On.
Thank you so much.
How is Zanya Foundation?
Zanya Foundation is very okay, and Zanya Africa Foundation is glad to be here on Game On.
Okay.
Yes.
And quickly, before I come to Hope, first things first, talk to us about Zanya Africa Foundation, because when I saw the word Zanya, I was contemplating, is it playing? Is that what it translates into? Give us a background of what Zanya is all about.
Well, thank you so much. Zanya, like you hear the word Zanya, to play, or kuzanya.
Yeah.
Yes. Zanya Africa Foundation is a non-government organization that empowers the community, empowers the children, the youth, the women, but most importantly, using sports as the tool. Sports has so much power.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that is something quite interesting, and we'll be coming into the breakdown of that conversation. Hope, how are you doing? It's a Wednesday. Certainly, we've got Irene here, and we're always talking sports. This time around, there is a foundation that is giving back to the impoverished communities across the area that she'll be telling us about, which is Endeavour. But what they are doing is they're equipping kids, women, and young people with skills, but through sports.
Well, I'm fine, Brian, and you said, I heard you when you were introducing the show, we had a crazy night last night in the Serie A. I mean, Atalanta, it's not a surprise to anyone, to be honest, and the goals are scoring, they're on form. Like I said yesterday, I just wish there was a team, there were Lazio, who was competing with Juventus in terms of winning the Serie A. But then getting back, it's good to have you, Irene, here. Like we're talking offsets, that you told us that your foundation was started by 2 amazing women. The president is a woman, and the vice president here, you are a woman, and I just can't wait to see what you have in stock for us today.
Definitely. Irene, first things first, you've taken us through the background, and everyone will be wondering, Zanya Africa Foundation, where is it located? And talk us through the processes and ultimately the targets you have as a foundation.
Okay, thank you so much. Zanya Africa Foundation mainly deals with the unprivileged children. So Zanya Africa Foundation, what we do is we go to currently we are in slum areas in Endeavour, and we are dealing with the impoverished families in that area. So what we do is we try to engage. We very well know that there are children down there who really want to join sports, but they have challenges. They find it hard, like training facilities, training attire. So Zanya Africa Foundation comes in because we are a group of sports scientists that come in and say, hey, we have this knowledge and we want to share it with the world, with Uganda, like we are starting with Uganda. But basically, we are starting with the impoverished families and mainly in the slum areas. So what we do is we move to families, we talk to parents, because some parents are really not interested in sports. They really want their children to be engaged in only school, but not knowing that in school there's
so
also
many traditional parents.
Yes, exactly. So another thing that we do is we move to schools, we form clubs. Schools have Zanya Africa Foundation clubs. We organize them. We want to instill life skills into these children because it is very easier to deal with them from the grassroots. Yes, we want them to get there. We want them to become professional athletes. Those who may not become professional athletes, sports has very many importances.
Right.
With sports, we can get great leaders through sports. Discipline is key. Everywhere you go, everything you do, discipline is key.
That's
and
true.
you realize that in sports, each game has its own rules. Sports people are disciplined. We want to do that for, yes.
Here's something interesting. I'm looking at some of those pictures there, and you can see how jolly some of these kids are. Obviously, the numbers as well. It's quite commendable how you are being able to put all these numbers together. Talk to us about some of the fun games, some of the different sports that you as Zanya are actually incorporating in the programs you've come up with.
Okay, what we do now, like you see on the screen, we have schools. We organize like schools. We invite different clubs. We can do it like 4 schools, and we get different Zanya Africa Foundation club members. In those schools, we bring them. We can have fun games, bottle racing, sack race. We can have like soccer and netball. But after that, we are not only looking at winning, but we are looking at bringing these children together, bringing communities together, and seeing that we instill something in them. After that, like you can see, we talk to them. We tell them about sex education, unwanted pregnancies. Like, we bring them people that inspire them.
Right.
Exactly.
I hope quickly, probably as you get to come in, here's something interesting, because there are so many socio-economic limitations for so many people across the communities. And just like she mentioned, the less privileged communities, because she's talking about early pregnancies and marriages. We talk about sexual abuse, domestic violence, high school dropouts. There's so many challenges that some of these communities face. How important is sports in terms of, being a tool to develop some of these communities?
Well, I'm glad that our foundation, took the route of using sports as a platform to reach out to these communities, because we know sports make a huge difference on a daily basis on people's lives. And for me, I think using sports as a platform and a tool to help these kids means a lot, because sports has, a broad opportunities. It's a big platform. There's so much to learn from it. And just to ask you a simple question, to take you back, you said your organization is majorly, the cause is to equip these kids with so many skills. We have so many organizations, not necessarily like your organization, but so many organizations that put in effort to reach out to communities in different ways, most especially promoting sports in schools, everywhere. How different is your organization, and do you have the right resources and equipments to make sure that these kids get the best skills like you wish to?
Thank you, Hope. Currently, we find some challenges, like, we deal with different children. You find a case where we have the people with disabilities, the children with disabilities. You find that you really want to engage them. The fact that we are sports scientists, we know what kind of exercise they need. We know the equipment they need. But the problem is, you find at time that it is hard for you to do what? To get the equipment for them to use. So that is a challenge that we find. And then another challenge is some schools, like I told you, we deal with the less privileged. We go to some schools and children don't have the attire, like sometimes they don't have a football pitch or a netball pitch, and you have to find means of taking them there. Even if you're taking them for fun games, but you really have to find means of taking them there. That is a challenge we are finding, but we shall find a solution. We are getting more partners on board, and we believe they are coming to help us on that.
Aren't you to re-echo a bit on the role that sports can get to play, especially the values that it can instill into kids? What are some of the key takeaways that any youngster coming up, you'd encourage them and tell them, if you play sports, this is what you benefit?
Thank you. Sports, like when you say something about sports, I really feel happy, because one thing sports will do, it is going to instill leadership skills. Of course, not to all, but we are going to have team captains, assistant captains, team leaders. Sports is going to instill discipline, like I told you in the first place. No one, you will never settle in a place if you're not disciplined.
Right.
Yes. So, what sports does also is instilling life skills, confidence. We have people with disabilities who fear to come out to community. But if we engage you in sports, sports makes you comfortable. It makes you feel like, I can do this. Yes.
Okay.
Brian, you know, she told us that she played different sports disciplines, volleyball, basketball. You have the experience in that field as much as you need to go ahead, you know, to make it professional. And here you are, you want to help these kids. But, you know, it takes a lot of effort, especially now helping kids that are vulnerable, kids that don't have faith in the future. Maybe some of these kids are going through a lot. How are you going to keep tracking, you know, their progress, especially when you're helping them to nurture their talent?
Thank you. What Zanya Africa Foundation is going to do is, first of all, we are getting in touch with different clubs, academies. So, as we are, like I told you, we know these children, we know their homes, we know where they stay, we know the schools they go to. So what we do is, if we see a talent, this person can do this, this person can do this, we connect them to academies. Most academies are coming on board. They are going to help us. Sports is really important. You realize that these kids, if they know that it is hard work that makes you a star, it is hard work in sports, they will not think about drugs. They will not think about doping. They will just know it is hard work. They will be self-driven. So we shall leave it to the federation, we shall leave it to the club managers to complete what we have started.
Irene, let us talk about some of the challenges that you are facing, because I understand there should be so many. You're dealing with a group of people that may need special attention. First of all, people that need to be empowered in so many different ways. Talk to us about some of the challenges you face.
Like I told you, the challenges we face, some parents are not, okay, it's not easy to convince them, like, to have their children join sports, join fun games. So we really have to talk to them. Then another challenge we face is the limited resources, equipment. Yes, sometimes we want to engage the people with the children with disabilities, but you realize that sometimes the equipment. So we just find some fun games to get them happy, to you know, to get them feel like life is good. Yes.
Do you have any partnerships? Are there people you would say have actually worked with you through this journey? Entities that have come through to offer a hand in one way or the other, and they've actually boosted some of your activities?
Currently, we have partnered with JB Caring Hearts.
Okay.
We have partnered with Leto Junior School Foundation. Mainly, we have well-wishers, we have family, friends that are always supporting us, like on this campaign that we have, the Score a Meal campaign. We have friends, family, well-wishers that are coming in to help.
Okay.
Yes.
Quickly, quite some interesting stuff up in there. And at the end of the day, sports as a tool to empower communities and make all these different changes all together. And she talks about the community of Vandeva. There are so many other communities that need help. How important is it that we have so many individuals who come up with these kinds of initiatives and actually be able to make a transformation in communities?
Well, Brian, we have been crying out for such things to be happening, and I'm glad, you know, she started this with your colleagues. It's a good initiative and it's a good cause, to be honest. And like I said, using sports as a platform, it means a lot. You're going to reach out to so many people because sports is loved by so many people. It can be football, basketball, any sport. And I think for me, especially looking out for the kids, we've always talked about nurturing talent from the grassroots. And here you are, you're going to vulnerable communities. Yes, in Devon, Nigeria is not a vulnerable community, but you starting from slum areas, you're going to pick out so many young talents, and I'm very sure that because we have had so many stories, successful stories from all these big personalities, they grew up, that's how they started. And now that for these kids, they'll be lucky that they have people who want to hold their hands, people who want to push them further. And at the end of the day, you'll find that they will get to understand their career outlook. They want to pursue sports as a passion. They want to use that platform to get so many opportunities, or even go ahead and help when they grow up and help their communities. To me, I think, Brian, I feel like this is something good. It's something that we're very craved for. It's something that we wish to see many people do. Even the other organizations that are doing so should be consistent in nurturing and promoting talent. And before I can forget, even using sports as a platform, you know, it has so many benefits. Helping these kids, it will help them get, you know, improve their self-confidence, their mental well-being. So it's a lot, and for me, I'm happy that you guys started this, and would wish to see many people venture into such causes.
Right, Irene, I want you to hit a bit on the Score a Meal campaign. You've talked about it earlier. Get us a breakdown of what it's all about. What are some of the things you hope to achieve with it?
Okay, the Score a Meal campaign, the unprivileged families that we deal with, the children that we deal with, we talk to their parents. These are people we know, because you can't deal with someone that you really don't have information about. So during this COVID period, you know, sports has been put like on
a hold.
Yes, to a hold. And you realize that we've been talking to some of these families. We call them, we reach out to them, like, how are you doing? And they keep telling us, like, we don't have what to eat, we find it hard. So we are like, instead of sitting down and waiting for COVID to end, why don't we look, because we really don't know. So we are like, why don't we really look for something that is going to help our people? Because even after COVID, we are going to go back. So they will even welcome us, like, you really helped us during this period. So for this Score a Meal campaign, that is how my colleague Najuma Kuluthum, she suggested, like, why don't we find this, we do a Score a Meal campaign. Score a Meal campaign, we get support from, we have our social media platforms. We share our numbers there. Zanya Africa Foundation. Zanya is ZANNYA. Zanya. Yes, Zanya Africa Foundation. And we ask for support from different people, well-wishers. Is it okay if I share the numbers? Our numbers are 0786 797963. That is for MTN. And for Airtel, it is 0701 279816. You realize that the campaign just started, but we have been receiving support from people. And the other week on Sunday, we visited a few families. Of course, due to this COVID, we don't go as a group. We pick a few staff from Zanya Africa Foundation, and we buy them something, a meal that can take them like 4 or 5 days, and you realize that they really appreciate.
Okay. Quickly, Hope, obviously standing with the people, especially during the hard times, everyone has been going through a rough patch during COVID-19, and at the end of the day, it's extremely important that you have people that come and stand with you. And on top of utilizing sports, they're also giving food to the communities and making sure they support them in so many different ways. Ultimately, when it's all said and done, everyone will be wondering, should we expect this to continue? What are the benefits, if any? And ultimately, how much motivation for the kids who are struggling could this be?
Well, the fact that her foundation has done this during these tough times, what are they going to do when things stabilize and get back to normal? To me, I feel like it's a good thing that these organizations come out to help kids, even other people and communities that have been doing badly, or people have lost their jobs, even people before didn't have jobs, businesses are falling down, people don't have money, and here you are, you've come out to help. To me, I think they will never forget. Actually, when you come back, in the near future, they will be willing to help you too, or even promote your work, because by you reaching a hand to these people, you're actually telling people, you're revealing to them the kind of work you do. To me, I think going forward, this is a good thing, and would wish to see many people invest and help communities that are suffering.
Okay, Irene, quickly talk to us about some of the achievements, especially in terms of the talent, because I know there is so much talent in some of these communities. All they need is a platform to express themselves. Talk to us about some of the real-life experiences you've had working with these kids, and what are some of the lessons you've learned yourself as well, because I'm sure working with these kids you learn a thing or two.
It is, what I can say is it is really fun working with kids. We work with kids, we work with youth, we work with women, but it is really fun, and the good thing is they are all welcoming. Even the schools that we go to, it is not hard. When we talk about sports, they just keep on asking us, what is the timetable, how can we bring our children on board, and that one is really not challenging for us as Zanya Africa.
Okay, parents, schools, that is a very important thing, because since you partner with schools, they are very key stakeholders in the processes. The parents as well, they are the parents to these kids, so certainly they have a say in terms of how their careers get to play out. Talk to us about the process of working with parents and working with schools as well.
Yes, we talk to parents, but sometimes when we go to schools and we really don't know about the parents, we get the information from the schools. Sometimes we appear on sports days, on visitation days. If there is like a conference, they've called parents to the school, they invite us and they give us a few minutes and we speak to the parents. We tell them how sports is going to transform lives, how sports is going to help their children in future, how sports is going to help us at large as a country.
Okay, quickly, what problems you chip in?
Well, Brian asked you on the challenges you're facing, and for me, I'm going to ask you because I'm a woman and I know what it means like to be heading an organization. You know, most especially when you're using sports as a platform, that's where the sex card plays in. She's a woman, she can't do this and this. What are the challenges that you have faced, most especially trying to reach out that message or the cause you're spreading to the communities?
The challenge that we face, we as ladies, me and my team, the challenges are there, but you have to find a way. You have to find a way of how to play it out, and you stay on your values, you stay on the mission, and you don't fall apart. Yes.
Okay, quickly before you wrap up this conversation, there is so much talent that is coming through the ranks. And all they need is a platform, all they need is an opportunity to actually be able to express themselves. In about 5 years or so, how much of a change you see in the Endeavour community and also the growth of Zanya Africa Foundation?
Yes, in a few years to come, we see Zanya Africa having brought up stars. We see Endeavour community changed. We see Endeavour community having stars, there are very many children that are not going to school in that community. We see many of them, and with the partners that we are getting on board, most of them want to offer bursaries to these children. We see an increased number of school-going children in that area. Yes.
Okay, quickly before you wrap up the show, I'm sure you've got final remarks. There's so many people watching out there. Probably they would want to come and give a hand in one way or the other, or probably they're also interested in starting up with such an initiative. And to talk to them and tell them your final remarks.
Okay, our final remarks as Zanya Africa Foundation is I want to encourage people, if you have the same idea, please come on board. Let's serve this nation. Let's do something for our country, because sports does a very big thing. As Zanya Africa Foundation, we also encourage more partners. We encourage club owners, academies to join us in doing this.
Okay, thank you so much, Irene, and I wish you the very best. There you go. That is Irene Tigaiza from the Zanya Africa Foundation. That being said, we're going to get into a short break. When we come back after the break, the president is saying for every medalist that has brought Uganda gold, silver, or even bronze on the African continent at the Olympics or even at the Commonwealth Games, you are actually going to be rewarded. Plus, all the results from the games last night, and certainly we'll get you a preview going into tonight's crunch ties. But at 10:15, Arsenal will be welcoming Liverpool. So can they jump into the Europa League places? And for Liverpool, they'll be chasing down some major records, including smashing their 100-point mark. Say all that and so much more right here on Game On. Keep the feedback coming, Facebook, Twitter. We'll be right back after the break.
Game on. It's game on. We are
Thank you.
big on sports. Big on sports.
Big stars here.